They say the most dangerous smiles are the ones that hide goodbyes. On a warm spring morning in suburban Indiana, neighbors watched as Emily Carter placed a soft kiss on her husband's cheek, a warm coffee in his travel mug, and a neat brown bag lunch in his hands. From the outside, she looked like the picture of an American wife, glowing, composed, devoted. But by nightfall, that same loving wife would be sitting in a police interrogation room, staring at footage that would dismantle the life she spent years pretending to build. Because Emily wasn't just smiling that morning, she was celebrating. She believed she had executed the perfect crime, a clean exit, a grieving widow act already rehearsed, and a future she planned without the man she vowed to love. She forgot one thing. In America, there are cameras everywhere, and the truth always plays back in high definition. Detective Mason Grant had been on the homicide unit for 14 years. He'd seen grief, guilt, rage, and denial in all forms. But what struck him about Emily wasn't her tears. It was her composure. Victims fall apart. Killers rehearse. Emily Carter wasn't falling apart. She was performing. Earlier that morning, her husband, Daniel Carter, was found dead in their garage. The scene looked like an accident. A tragic fall from a ladder, a cracked skull, tools scattered, a loving husband gone too soon. Or at least that's the story Emily delivered, and at first glance, she played the part beautifully. 8 hours earlier, the Carter home sat on a quiet cul-de-sac. White fence, blue shutters, freshly mowed lawn. The kind of place where childhood memories are supposed to be made, where barbecues hum on Sundays, and where neighbors wave just a little too long. Inside, Emily floated through the morning with a softness that could fool any casual observer. She brewed Daniel's favorite blend. She hummed. She set the table. When Daniel walked downstairs, she greeted him with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. He didn't notice, or maybe he didn't want to notice. Some men ignore warning signs because acknowledging them feels like failure. Others don't see them at all. Daniel belonged to the second group. The routine was familiar, predictable, domestic bliss, or the choreography of someone staging normalcy. If life was a performance, Emily was the lead actress, and Daniel was just an extra in a script he didn't know was written. By noon, the 911 call rang through. "My husband, I think he fell. There's blood. Please hurry." Emily's voice trembled just enough. Her breathing paced on cue. She sounded terrified, not distraught. A subtle difference detectives know to listen for. Terror is about the situation. Grief is about the loss. Emily seemed more afraid of the moment than the man she claimed to love being gone forever. Paramedics pronounced Daniel dead at the scene. Emily cried on the driveway, hands over her face, shoulders shaking. But her eyes stayed dry, and when she thought no one was watching, her hands dropped. Her breathing steadied. The mask slipped, just for a second. But seconds are all detectives need. Back at the precinct, Detective Grant began to peel back the layers. And layers are where truth hides, beneath routines, beneath smiles, beneath carefully rehearsed tragedy. Emily had prepared for everything, every question, every tone, every tear she would fake. Everything except the one variable she couldn't control. Inside the interrogation room, fluorescent lights hum quietly. The room is neutral, intentionally uneventful. The environment doesn't attack you. It lets your mind attack itself. Detective Grant entered with a calm expression, a folder in hand, and a truth Emily hadn't met yet. He sat, smiled politely, and waited. Silence is not empty in interrogation. It is a mirror, and guilty minds hate reflection. Emily shifted, smoothed her hair, adjusted her cardigan sleeve, tiny motions, but telling ones. Performers adjust their costumes. Victims collapse into the moment. "Emily," Grant began gently, "I know today has been devastating. I'm sorry for your loss." Her eyes didn't soften. Her shoulders didn't drop. She simply nodded, as though following stage directions. "Can you walk me through the morning again?" A simple question. But simple questions are pressure valves. They reveal cracks. She repeated the story. Breakfast, a kiss, Daniel going to the garage to fix a shelf. Then she paused, too long to be organic. She looked at the ceiling, thinking, planning. Lies require construction. Truth arrives instinctively. The detective nodded, taking notes he didn't need. "Did you see him fall?" "No," she answered quickly. Too quickly. Quick answers in grief are rare. Loss slows speech. Shock clogs thought. But guilt rehearses. Outside that interrogation room, tech analysts were rewinding footage, checking timestamps, syncing motion-activated clips, and scanning every angle of the Carter home and neighborhood. Because in modern America, nobody commits a murder. They simply schedule their confession for when the footage loads. And in this case, Emily had scheduled hers without knowing it. As cameras told truth, Emily told fiction. Footage showed she entered the garage twice that morning. Once at 9:13 a.m., again at 9:29. Her story claimed she never went in at all. But lies don't drown evidence. They drown the liar. The footage also caught something else. Something small but fatal. A bottle, a rag, a pair of gloves, and the unmistakable act of wiping down the ladder rungs with deliberate strokes. Cleaning isn't a reflex in grief. It's a ritual in guilt. Back inside the interrogation room, Detective Grant leaned back. "Emily, your neighbors have Ring cameras. You know those little doorbells? They see everything." Her pulse jumped, a subtle swallow in her throat. Fear doesn't always scream. Sometimes it simply swallows. "You were in the garage," he continued softly. "You cleaned something." Silence, then denial, sharp and offended. "I was looking for gardening gloves. That doesn't mean anything, but it did, and the detective knew it." Grant unfolded a photo. It showed the ladder, the cleaned rungs. "Daniel didn't fall," he said calmly. "He was pushed." Emily smiled, not sadness, not shock. A defensive smirk, a narcissistic tell, mocking disbelief, a smile that said, "I am smarter than this room." But she wasn't smarter than the cameras. Then came the shift, the psychological hinge of interrogation. "Emily," Grant said softly, "you didn't want to kill your husband. You wanted to kill your marriage tears finally formed, but not from sadness, from exposure." There it was, the raw nerve, the motive behind the mask. Emily wasn't grieving a man. She was grieving a plan. She shook her head, voice trembling now, not with emotion, but with panic. "You don't understand. Daniel wanted control over everything, every dollar, every decision. I gave up years for him, and he, anger, justification, personal narrative replacing objective reality. This wasn't the voice of a widow. It was the voice of someone who believed betrayal entitled them to revenge. A dangerous belief, a narcissistic one. The kind of belief that turns marriage vows into exit strategies." Detective Grant didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He simply placed his final card on the table. A still frame. Emily in the garage, gloves on, hand on ladder, and the timestamp that killed her story. Her face went pale. The smile vanished. And for the first time, the actress forgot her lines. That is the moment guilt breaks. Not when truth appears, but when control disappears. In court months later, evidence would show Emily drugged Daniel's coffee, waited until he was dizzy, then staged the fall. She planned a new life, new freedom, new money, a new identity as survivor instead of wife. But her fantasy miscalculated one thing. Smiles don't hide from surveillance, and cameras don't forget. The world watched her lie. The courtroom watched her fall, and justice watched her smile fade into handcuffs. Daniel Carter never saw it coming, but truth has a way of protecting the dead, even when the living try to rewrite them. In the end, Emily didn't just kill her husband. She killed her mask, her performance, her illusion of control. And when the verdict came, the same lips that once kissed a man she vowed to love now trembled as she whispered 3 words. I wasn't wrong. Even then, she didn't confess. Narcissists don't break. They collapse inward. Some crimes are impulsive, some emotional. This one was calculated, cold, mechanical. But the truth isn't fragile. It doesn't bruise under lies. It waits, it records, it replays, and eventually, it demands justice. Because in a world full of masks, recordings reveal the human underneath. Sometimes kind, sometimes monstrous, and sometimes, like Emily, smiling only because she doesn't realize the camera is already rolling. If you were here through this story, then you already know. Darkness can hide behind the brightest smile, and sometimes justice arrives not in shouts, but in quiet playback. In a world full of masks, keep paying attention. Keep questioning. Keep looking for the truth behind the smile. And if you want more stories where truth wins, justice rises, and the human mind reveals its secrets, stay with us. Hit subscribe and step into the next interrogation, where every lie eventually breaks and every mask eventually falls.